The stars stretched forever across the silent dark of space, billions of tiny lights scattered on a canvas of endless black. For the Galactic Council, the void was a place of order, every star mapped, every world catalogued, every fleet controlled. Nothing was supposed to move without being seen, nothing was supposed to appear without permission. But then, the scanners detected something. At first, the signal was faint, like a ripple in deep water. The technicians thought it was a mistake, a simple error in the long-range systems. But the ripple grew stronger, sharper, and it carried the clear shape of a moving vessel. An object was gliding through space where no ship had ever been recorded. The council technicians called their commanders, commanders called their admirals, admirals whispered in fear to their council leaders. The data was undeniable. An uncharted warship was approaching the outer rim. It was massive, bigger than most known battleships, but it did not match any design in the galactic archives. Its energy signature was strange, pulsing like a heartbeat. In the great chamber of the council, the leaders gathered in silence. The High Chancellor, a tall insectoid with eyes like dark glass, tapped his claws against the marble floor. His voice echoed as he spoke. What empire dares cross the rim without announcing themselves? What ship ignores the law of the stars? No one answered. The records showed nothing. The ship was unmarked, no banners, no transponders, no crest of empire. It was as if the void itself had built a warship and sent it forward. The council demanded immediate action. They ordered a patrol fleet to investigate. The fleet moved quickly, 10 cruisers armed with plasma cannons. They cut through hyperspace and dropped out near the signal. The ship was waiting for them. It was not hiding. It was not fleeing. It drifted like a shadow against the stars. Its hull was black, darker than the void around it. The shape was sharp, unnatural, its sides bristling with strange towers and glowing lines. The alien fleet scanned the vessel. The results were disturbing. The ship's weapons outnumbered theirs. Its shielding burned with an energy they had never seen. The lead admiral ordered a hail. Unidentified vessel, this is the authority of the Galactic Council. State your name and purpose, lower your weapons, and submit to inspection. Silence. The black warship did not respond. Only the faint hum of its engines filled the scanners. The alien ships held their ground, waiting. Then suddenly, the vessel came alive. Lights flared across its hull, a deep red glow like fire from the heart of a dying sun. Weapon signatures lit up, more than the fleet had imagined. "Admiral, it is arming," a technician cried. The admiral felt cold fear. No empire dared arm themselves before the council's fleet. No pirate could own such power, and yet, this warship was preparing for battle without hesitation. The fleet began to retreat, but then the first signal came. A broadcast cut through all channels. It was not in any alien tongue. It was not coded in galactic script. The machines tried to translate, stumbling, breaking, until finally one word echoed across the bridge, a word spoken in the lost language of a forgotten world. Human. The admiral froze. Around him, his officers looked at one another with disbelief. Humans, the word was legend. They were said to be gone, exiled to the edge of the galaxy centuries ago. The council had declared them dangerous, too violent, too unstable to share the stars. Their home world was marked forbidden, their species marked extinct, and yet, here it was, a warship, alive, armed, and carrying the name of a species that should not exist. Fear spread quickly. The fleet no longer felt like hunter. They felt like prey. Every scan showed more weapons, more armor, more power than they had ever faced. If this was a single human ship, what would a fleet look like? What had humanity been building? The chamber of the Galactic Council was carved from white stone and glowing crystals. It was a place of calm order, built to remind every species that the galaxy was under control. Yet today, fear ran like poison through the air. The warship had been confirmed as human, and that truth was more dangerous than any weapon. The High Chancellor stood at the center, his tall insectoid body trembling slightly. Around him sat the leaders of 100 worlds, feathered avians with sharp beaks, scaled reptilians with eyes of burning gold, towering aquatic beings floating in glass chambers of water. Each of them spoke at once, their voices a storm of panic. "Destroy it before it reaches the inner worlds," one shouted. "No, wait, study it. Perhaps it is not as strong as it appears," another argued. But the truth was written on the screens around them. The uncharted warship carried weapons none of them understood. Its shields bent energy in ways that defied physics. Its hull seemed alive, absorbing every scan and giving nothing back. It was not a ship built for exploration. It was a predator waiting in silence. The council chamber grew louder until the High Chancellor raised his claw and demanded silence. His voice echoed across the chamber. This cannot be ignored. We exiled humanity long ago. They were weak then, unworthy of the stars. But now they return with a warship that outmatches our fleets. We must ask the question, how many more are waiting in the dark? The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Every leader imagined it, a hidden fleet of human warships cloaked in the void, armed with weapons beyond their knowledge. If one ship could terrify the galaxy, what would 100 do? An elder reptilian, his scales cracked with age, spoke slowly. We told ourselves humanity was finished. We left them on their broken world. We called them primitive, savage, unfit for counsel. Yet we see now, savages do not vanish. They sharpen their claws in the shadows, and now the claws are at our throat. Fear spread like wildfire. Some demanded a massive fleet to hunt down the humans. Others whispered of negotiations. But beneath every word was a truth none wanted to speak. The galaxy had grown soft. For centuries, the Council had ruled in peace. Empires had disarmed. Weapons had been limited. But humanity had not lived in peace. They had built in silence. They had prepared for war. A young avian senator spread her wings and hissed, "What if this is only a scout? What if this ship is here to measure our strength? What if the true fleet waits beyond the rim?" The thought sent a ripple of dread through the chamber. The counselors looked to their admirals for answers, but the admirals avoided their eyes. Their fleets were strong against pirates, against small rebellions, against empires bound by council law. But they were not ready for predators born from a death world. The High Chancellor's voice grew harder. "We cannot appear weak. If humanity believes we are afraid, they will strike. We must send a stronger fleet. We must remind them the Council is not powerless." Yet even as he spoke, many could see the doubt in his glassy eyes. Powerless or not, the balance of the galaxy had shifted. The Council was no longer the hunter. It was prey that had just heard the growl of a returning beast. The session ended with no true answer, only fear, only whispers. The image of the black warship played on the chamber screens long after the leaders had left. It floated in the void, silent and armed, its red lights glowing like the eyes of a predator watching from the dark. And then came the reports. Rumors spread from the patrol fleet that had faced the human vessel. The destroyed cruiser had been cut in half with a single shot. The survivors spoke Oz. A voice, cold, human, and calm, that said only one word, warning. The word echoed in the minds of every counselor. It was not the shout of a conqueror. It was not the plea of a weaker race. It was something worse. It was the voice of a species that knew its power, that did not need to scream to be feared. Across the galaxy, ordinary citizens began to hear the rumors. On trading stations, in crowded ports, in smoky taverns, voices whispered of the warship. They whispered the forbidden word. Human. Merchants who had once laughed at old stories now grew pale at the sound of it. Soldiers who once called humans primitive now sharpened their blades in silence, and children of alien worlds asked their parents, "What is a human? Why are you afraid?" The council tried to contain the fear. They sent censors to erase the reports. They silenced the patrol officers who had spoken too much. But fear is faster than censorship. Fear spreads faster than light. And now the galaxy was awake. In the deepest corner of the chamber, one ancient aquatic being floated in his water tank. His voice was old, heavy, filled with memory. He whispered words that chilled even the bravest. "We should not have exiled them. We should have ended them. Now it is too late." The others turned to him, but he spoke no more. His eyes stared into the distance, as if he could already see the future, a future written not by the Council, not by the empires, but by the return of humanity, and above all, in every heart, one question burned. If this was only the beginning, what would come next? The fleet of the Galactic Council moved carefully around the human warship, 10 cruisers in formation, their engines glowing pale blue. Their weapons were armed but held steady. The black vessel floated silent, its red lights dim against the stars. It was like a predator waiting in the grass, unmoving, yet terrifying. On the flagship of the fleet, Admiral Teravac stood tall, his scale shimmered under the glow of the tactical displays. He was a veteran of many battles, a soldier who had broken pirate kings and crushed rebellious colonies, but as he stared at the image of the human warship, his throat grew dry. None of his victories meant anything now. This was different. "Open all channels," he ordered. His voice was strong, but his heart trembled. "Send the hailing signal again. Demand they answer." The technicians obeyed. A dozen languages filled the void. Council Standard, Trade Cant, Binary Wave, even ancient scripts rarely used were broadcast toward the warship. Each message said the same: identify yourself, submit to inspection. The Council commands it. For long moments, there was only silence. The dark ship gave nothing back. The alien fleet waited, their weapons glowing faint with energy. Each second stretched like an eternity. The Admiral could feel the eyes of his crew on him. They wanted him to act, to give the order to fire, but he held his breath, waiting. Then, at last, a signal came, not like any they expected. It cut across all channels, slicing through interference like a blade. The machine stuttered, trying to translate. The sound was harsh, sharp, filled with tones no alien throat could form. The crew winced as the sound poured through the bridge. The translator flickered, words forming slowly, broken. But one message was clear, a single word repeated twice: warning, warning. The Admiral froze. Around him, officers stared in shock. Some whispered in fear, others shouted for attack. But the Admiral saw something deeper in that voice. It was not a cry of weakness. It was not the roar of conquest. It was something worse. It was the voice of a species that had nothing to prove. Still, fear clouded his judgment. "They are threatening us," one officer hissed. "If we do not strike, they will strike first." The Admiral hesitated. His instincts told him to wait, but the Council's orders thundered in his memory. Humanity was dangerous. Humanity must never be allowed to rise again. His clawed hand trembled above the command. The wreckage of the destroyed cruiser still drifted in the void, its burning fragments scattering like dying stars across the dark. The Council fleet stood frozen, their weapons armed but their hearts filled with terror. None dared move, none dared fire again. They had seen what one shot from the human warship could do. On the Council flagship, Admiral Teravac could not look away. The black vessel floated in silence, its red lines glowing faintly across the hull. It did not chase. It did not finish the fleet. It only watched, like a predator letting its prey decide whether to flee or fight. "Admiral, orders," one officer begged, his voice cracked with fear. The crew trembled as alarms echoed through the bridge. Yet the Admiral gave none. He could not. His mind raced with one truth. If this was only one ship, then humanity's strength was beyond imagining. The technicians worked desperately, scanning the vessel again and again, hoping for weakness, hoping for something to report. But the scans revealed more horrors. Weapons upon weapons, missile silos hidden within its hull, cannons glowing with unknown energy, vast arrays that bent light itself. The ship carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets, maybe even worlds. The Admiral gripped the console, his claws shaking. "What have they built?" he whispered. No one answered. The human warship began to shift. Its massive structure groaned as panels opened along its sides. Towers of strange metal rose from the black hull, glowing with scarlet light. The galaxy had seen plasma, railguns, antimatter bombs, but this was something different, something no one understood. A silence fell deeper than before. Every Council ship held its breath. The alien officers whispered, "Is this the end? Will they fire again?" The fear spread like a living thing, filling every ship, every mind. Then the human vessel moved, its engine ness ignited with a soundless roar. The void shimmered as dark matter spilled from its core. The energy readings spiked so high that Council instruments cracked and died. Sparks flew across the alien bridges as their computers failed to measure what they were seeing. It was power beyond the scale of the galaxy. The weapon came alive. A massive cannon along the spine of the warship pulsed, not with light, but with shadow. It devoured the starlight around it, bending space, dragging the void itself into its barrel. The aliens gasped in horror as the stars near the ship began to blur. "Impossible," a scientist cried. "It is consuming gravity itself." The cannon fired, not at the fleet, but into the emptiness beyond. The blast was silent, but the void screamed. A beam of dark fire stretched across space, tearing open reality itself. A rift appeared where the beam passed, a wound in the universe glowing with unstable light. The sight broke the minds of weaker crew, some collapsing in terror. The Council fleet watched as the rift slowly closed, leaving nothing but silence. One test shot, one warning. The message was clear. This was not a warship armed for battle. It was a warship armed to end battles before they began. The admiral staggered. His scales turned pale. His crew whispered in disbelief. They did not aim at us. They spared us. Yes, they had spared them, but the meaning was worse than destruction. The humans had shown they could erase fleets, erase empires, erase even the laws of physics if they wished, and yet they chose not to. That restraint was not mercy, it was domination. The fleet was trapped in silence, every ship afraid to move, afraid to provoke another strike. The human warship pulsed once more with crimson light, and then, as calmly as it had come, its weapons powered down, its panels closed, the great cannon folded back into the hull. The red glisten dimmed, leaving only the shadow of its black shape against the stars. Admiral Terivak fell into his chair, his claws dug into the metal armrests. He had fought all his life, believed himself strong, but now he knew the truth. The galaxy was weak. Humanity had not returned to beg, they had returned to rule. On distant council worlds, the reports arrived, images of the rift, recordings of the destroyed cruiser, the single-word broadcast. Warning, entire empires trembled. Some demanded surrender before humanity struck. Others demanded armies to be built, weapons rediscovered. But all of them knew the truth. They were centuries too late. And aboard the human vessel, unseen by alien eyes, human voices spoke softly. They were calm, measured, confident. For them, this was not war. This was only the beginning of a reminder that humanity had survived, had grown strong, and would no longer hide in the shadows of the galaxy. The weapon had been unveiled, and with it, the fate of the galaxy had begun to change. The galaxy did not sleep after the unveiling of the human weapon. Across council worlds, fear spread like wildfire. Markets closed, fleets were recalled, whole populations whispered in terror. Yet beneath the fear, another truth began to rise. A question older than the council itself. Who were the humans, and why had they been forgotten? In the hidden vaults of the council archives, records long buried were unlocked. Ancient data crystals glowed with memories of a war no one dared to speak of. The few who knew the truth had sworn silence, but silence cannot survive forever. Secrets demand to be heard. The counselors gathered in the shadowed halls of the archive chamber, guarded by soldiers who themselves did not know what they protected. An old historian, his skin pale and wrinkled, placed trembling hands on the crystal. His voice shook as he spoke. You wanted to know the past, now hear it, and fear it. The crystal lit up, filling the chamber with images. The council leaders gasped as the truth unfolded before their eyes. They saw humans, not weak and broken, but fierce, defiant, standing on burning worlds. Their armies fought against entire empires. Their warships struck faster and harder than any alien fleet. They were not prey, they were predators unleashed. Class Zero Death World, the historian whispered. The phrase echoed like thunder in the chamber. That was their name. That was their curse. Humanity was born on a world of storms, of fire, of predators that hunted them without mercy. To survive, they became predators themselves. To live, they learned to fight everything, even the universe. The leaders shivered. The recordings showed battles long erased from public memory. Human fleets clashing with council armadas. Entire systems burning. The humans did not fight with numbers. They fought with will. Their minds twisted chaos into strategy. Their ships turned defeat into victory. They should have been destroyed, one counselor hissed. His feathers trembled with fear. They could not be destroyed, the historian replied. Every time they were beaten, they rose again, stronger, sharper, more dangerous. They were not like us. They were not meant to follow. They were meant to challenge, to dominate, to survive at any cost. The chamber filled with silence. The council leaders realized the terrible truth. The exile of humanity had not been an act of mercy, it had been an act of fear. Long ago, the council had not defeated humanity, they had simply banished them, hoping the void itself would finish what they could not. But the void had failed. Now humanity had returned, armed with weapons that bent space, with ships that silenced fleets. The old fear had come alive again. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than light. In taverns on desert worlds, in icy mining colonies, in palaces of alien kings, people spoke the forbidden name, human. The word carried both terror and awe. To some, they were monsters. To others, legends. On a distant trade station, a young alien child asked her father, "Are the humans real? Are they coming here?" The father could not answer. He only looked out into the stars and prayed the warship would never arrive. But in the shadows of forgotten worlds, rebels and outcasts began to dream. They had lived under council law for centuries, beaten, silenced, crushed by the weight of order. Now they whispered, perhaps humanity was hope. Perhaps the predators would break the chains of the council. Back in the council chamber, the High Chancellor's voice trembled as he spoke. "We made a mistake. We thought them gone, but they endured. They have returned stronger than before. And now the galaxy will suffer for our arrogance." Some councillors demanded war, massive fleets, weapons to match the humans. But the admirals shook their heads. Their ships were old, their weapons limited. Humanity had built in silence while the council had slept in peace. They were centuries behind. An old aquatic being, his voice like the echo of the sea, whispered words that chilled them all. "We feared them once. We banished them. Now the stars themselves bend to their will. If they choose war, no wall in the galaxy will hold them back." The chamber fell into heavy silence. None spoke, none moved. For they all knew what the whispers meant. Humanity was not just a threat. Humanity was a reminder of what the galaxy had tried to bury, a reminder that predators always return, and in the void, aboard the black warship, the humans themselves remained silent, watching, listening, waiting. Their ship drifted with purpose, their voices calm, their eyes fixed on the stars. They knew the council was remembering. They knew the whispers were spreading. That was enough, for the greatest weapon humanity had ever forged was not the cannon that tore the void. It was not the shields that bent physics. It was fear. And fear now belonged to them. The past had awakened, and the galaxy would never forget again. The void was silent, yet the silence carried weight. Across the galaxy, fleets stood on alert, worlds trembled, and the word human spread like fire. But aboard the black warship, there was no panic, no chaos. The humans waited, calm and steady, as if everything was unfolding exactly as they had planned. The council fleets tracked the warship from a safe distance. None dared to approach too closely. The memory of the destroyed cruiser still haunted every admiral. Every soldier who had seen the dark cannon fire now dreamed of it at night. The image of a single blast cutting space itself was burned into their minds. In the Grand Council chamber, leaders demanded answers. "What do they want?" one shouted. "Why are they here?" cried another. The arguments grew louder until a single message arrived. It was short, it was clear, and it froze the chamber in silence. The black warship had begun to broadcast. Every channel across the sector lit up, civilian, military, even private frequencies. The signal cut through every firewall, every defense. The human voice echoed across the stars, calm, steady, and merciless. "We left your galaxy once, not because we were weak, but because we chose to prepare," the voice said. The translators struggled, but the meaning was clear. The words carried a weight that silenced millions of listeners. "You exiled us to die. You thought the void would finish us, but the void became our teacher. It hardened us. It forged us into something stronger than you can understand." The voice was not angry, it was not shouting, it spoke with the cold certainty of truth that made it more terrifying than any roar of rage. The council chamber shook with fear. Some leaders demanded the broadcast be blocked. Others whispered that blocking it would change nothing. The words were already spreading, carried from ear to ear, world to world, faster than light could travel. The voice continued. "We do not seek your approval. We do not ask for your permission. We give you only this, a warning. Do not raise your fleets against humanity again. Do not point your weapons at our kind. If you do, you will see what we have become." On distant mining colonies, workers froze as the words echoed through their radios. On crowded trade stations, merchants stared in silence as the broadcast played on every screen. In royal palaces, alien kings turned pale, clutching their thrones as they listened. The galaxy listened together, united by fear. The humans had not shown their fleet. They had not shown their armies. They had shown only one warship. But in that moment, every empire understood the truth. If one ship carried such power, then a fleet would be unstoppable. The broadcast grew darker. The voice shifted, steady and calm. For centuries, you called us savages, predators, monsters. And you were right. We are predators, we are monsters. But we are also survivors, and survivors never forget. The words struck harder than weapons. The galaxy remembered its history, the forgotten wars, the exiles, the lies told to hide humanity's strength. Now the lies were ash, and the truth was burning in every heart. Then came the final words, soft yet unshakable. You may choose to test us, but if you do, know this. The stars will turn red, your fleets will turn to dust, and your empires will vanish. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not fall. Humanity endures. The broadcast ended. The silence after was heavier than the words themselves. In the council chamber, no one spoke. The leaders stared at one another, their faces pale with dread. They had heard a declaration, not of war, not of peace, but of power. Humanity had spoken, and now the galaxy trembled. Admiral Teravac sat in his flagship, his eyes locked on the warship still drifting silently ahead. His claws dug into the armrests of his chair. He had fought all his life, but he knew now that no fleet, no weapon of the Council could stand against this. The humans had not returned to ask for a place in the stars. They had returned to take it. In the shadows of forgotten colonies, rebels cheered quietly. To them, the humans were not monsters. They were hope. Hope that the chains of the Council would break. Hope that predators would rise again. But to the empires of the Council, the message was doom. A promise that the galaxy was no longer theirs. A promise that the old predators had returned. The black warship powered down its broadcast systems. Its lights dimmed, its engines glowed faintly. Slowly, it began to turn away, leaving behind silence and fear. It had not fired, it had not destroyed, but its message had done more damage than any cannon. The human message was clear. Humanity had returned. Humanity was armed. Humanity was watching. The black warship drifted away from the Council fleet, its engines glowing faint red as it vanished into the endless dark. No more weapons fired, no more words were spoken, yet the silence it left behind was heavier than war. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. In the flagship of Admiral Teravac, no one moved. The bridge was frozen in fear. Every officer stared at the void where the human vessel had been. Their screens flickered, their claws trembled. None dared to speak first. At last, the Admiral whispered, "They did not destroy us. They could have, but they chose not to." That truth was worse than defeat. The Council fleet realized they were alive only because the humans had allowed it. Their survival was not earned, it was granted, and granted survival was a leash of fear. Back in the Council chamber, the leaders of 100 worlds gathered once more. Their voices shook with panic. "We must build weapons," one cried. "We must form alliances," shouted another. But deep inside, they knew the truth. They were centuries too late. Humanity had grown in silence while they had grown soft. No alliance, no fleet, no weapon could match what they had seen. On the distant colonies, whispers grew into stories. Stories grew into legends. In taverns and markets, in temples and mines, the name human spread like wildfire. To some, it was a curse. To others, a prayer. But to all, it was power. Merchants told of the black warship that split a cruiser with one shot. Soldiers whispered of the voice that spoke with no fear. Parents warned their children not to speak the forbidden name too loudly. Yet the children whispered it anyway, in secret games under alien skies. They whispered human, and their voices carried the sound of awe. In rebel camps hidden on lawless worlds, the whispers became hope. If humanity has returned, perhaps the Council can fall, they murmured. If humans can rise from exile, then so can we. For the first time in centuries, the oppressed began to dream of freedom, and their dreams carried the shadow of human warships. But in the palaces of kings, in the chambers of empires, fear ruled. Some leaders ordered their fleets to double patrols, some demanded new weapons be built. Others prepared escape plans for themselves, for they all knew the same truth. The balance of the galaxy had broken. The Council was no longer the master of the stars. Above all, in the minds of the people, one truth echoed. Humanity had returned, and humanity was not asking for permission. Humanity was not asking for peace. Humanity was not asking at all. The dawn of fear had arrived, not with fire raining from the sky, not with fleets burned to ash, but with silence, with restraint, with power displayed yet not unleashed. That silence was more terrifying than any war. Admiral Teravac sat alone in his chamber, staring at the stars. His claws no longer trembled, his eyes were hollow. He had seen the future, and it was written in shadows. "They are not conquerors," he whispered. "They are reminders. They are the storm we tried to bury, and storms do not stay buried." His words spread to his officers, they spread to his fleet, they spread beyond to every corner of the Council, and soon the galaxy itself repeated the truth. Humanity was no longer forgotten. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity was no longer weak. The black warship had left, but its shadow remained. It hung over the Council worlds. It haunted their dreams. It bent their wills. In every capital, in every palace, in every port, leaders looked up at the stars with the same unspoken thought: when will they return? And in the hidden void where no Council ship dared to travel, more shadows stirred, more ships waited, dark and silent, more weapons hummed with red light. Humanity had not sent a lone warship to frighten the galaxy. They had sent a messenger, a single voice to announce their return. The dawn of fear was only the beginning. The galaxy had ruled in comfort for centuries. But predators had returned to the stars, and predators do not share. Predators hunt. Predators take. Predators endure. And so the stars burned brighter with a new truth, a truth carried in whispers, a truth carved into fear. Humanity had returned. Humanity was armed. Humanity was watching, and the galaxy would never sleep in peace again.